This should work now. Alrighty then. Welcome everyone. We're slightly late, and that's totally on me. But we're kicking things off fast today. So I'm sharing my screen, doing super quick intro, and handing the mic over to smarter people than me. Today I'm gonna be having Bill and Bilal here. Bill is a CEO at Sales Captain and the best clay person in the world, and Bilal is gonna help him out and works as a GTM engineer user pilot and is gonna show some super cool things as well. Yeah, so 5 words about ZenABM. It's a platform for running ABM campaigns on LinkedIn. We show you deep insight into your data that you advertise on LinkedIn. We show you intents. We give you account scoring out of the box. We show you the entire customer journey and deal attribution so you guys can understand how your ads are actually impacting the deal you're opening and how they are impacting your closing these deals. We have analytics out of the box with all of the effectiveness metrics for your campaign, how they affect your pipeline, and Zena, our AI agent, sits on top of it with access to all of your data. You can ask it any questions you want, and she will come up with the right answers for you. Yeah, code Bootcamp 10% off, limit to 50, first come, first served. Is valid for the next 10 days, so till the end of the bootcamp. And I really powered through this one today. And without further ado, I'm handing it over to you, Bill. When there will be questions, I'm just gonna politely stop you so we can answer the questions when people have them.
Yeah, sounds good, and thank you for the invite. It's good to be in a room with similarly smart people. I was going to say, you had to make me laugh. Yeah, so I'm Bill, sales captain, one of the top clay agencies, Limitless partners, A-Reach partners. We're bringing some noise to the market. So on today's agenda, I want to share with you how we use signals, including the signals that we get from the ads, to prioritize accounts and kind of guide our entire GDM motion, which includes a few more steps than you'd expect. So why are we here and why is this important? It kind of all starts with, I think, something that ZenABM also kind of supports quite heavily, which is the data that we now have available in our go-to-market motions is more and also slightly noisier than it has ever been, which is a good thing because we have more things to interpret. But at the same time, that does create a few kind of implications for our go-to-market motions. Pretty much that has as a big consequence that whoever manages data better will have a more effective go-to-market motion. So essentially what we're calling it is data is the new creative, because relevance will almost always win over persuasion. Whoever has the ability to create a more relevant experience or message will win versus a guy who has maybe really charming copy but doesn't resonate with the person. That was the old world. It was about the copy, the tone, a lot of A/B testing on messages and a lot of volume. And the shift happened because of the ability to use signals across our go-to-market motion. We can pretty much scrape, interpret, and enrich data in real time, which never, didn't exist before. A big part thanks to AI. And that kind of means that signals are now deciding how to interact with people, which channels to use, not the other way around. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to run outbound, cool, email means you have to do A, B, and C. It's more like the data that I'm seeing means that I should be talking to people through this, and that platform. It scales better. It's cheaper at volume. It allows you to get more effective results. As Spider-Man's uncle said, with great power comes great responsibility. So the immediate problem, like all that is amazing. It's a new world out there, but with so many signals and data, a lot of marketing and sales teams are now wondering which accounts should we be prioritizing. I'll give an example that I think everyone has gone through. You set up RB2B connected to a Slack channel or any tool that allows you to, for example, identify website visitors or people interacting with your content, people signing up to your webinar, your newsletter. And you start getting bombarded with people and different actions. Bill did this, MJ did that, Bilal attended the webinar. And you're like, but is it a big account? But do I care about them? But what if they also signed up for the webinar and then visited the pricing page and then maybe signed up for our platform? So there's a lot of data points, which is good. But also when you scale that, it creates a lot of friction because you have no idea who to prioritize. So to kind of answer that, we came up with what we call the 3 account scores that allow us to action the go-to-market motion. It's 3 obviously obvious but kind of simple things as well. The first one is the account fit score, which is how close, you can even think of it as an ICP score. How close is that ICP, that company that we're just engaging with, to our ideal customer profile. The second one is the behavior score. So, okay, I see a big company, it's interacting with our content, interacting with our website, interacting with our ads. Is it one person interacting? Is it 10 interactions? Is it 100 interactions? Are they happening across the span of a week, a month? Or is it, kind of potentially lower intent signal? How hot is the company right now? If they've also visited the website and signed up and all that, we definitely need to be calling them, not even, reaching out via email and having a nice follow-up. And the last one, obviously, which is also dictated by account fit score and our experience in the market and past clients, is how big is the potential deal size, right? Are they buying something that's worth $1,000, or is this potentially an account that can be worth 10K a month? So by having those types of account scores or signals for every single account that interacts with us, with our ads, with our content, with our go-to-market motion in general, we're able to prioritize the right accounts. Obviously, there's no secret in the back end. We use Clay to gather those signals and then prioritize and score each account. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it'll get a little bit technical, but pretty much like some of the buckets you can look at to kind of set up your ICP or account fit score, your account behavior score, or how hot is this signal, and your contract value. You can find them on the slide. Obviously, the account fit score is more like how big is this company, how important is it to have this logo, does it fit our ICP? The behavior score is how warm is the signal. In a world with thousands of signals, how warm is the insight from the signal? And then the contract value is based on their company size, maybe their region, maybe past deals you've had. Where does this model kind of live? Like, where do these 3 scores live? The answer is really simple. Inside of your CRM, it's nothing more than one additional variable for every single company that you interact with. Having an engagement score, typically past 90 days, and then having an account fit score, how close is it to your ICP, and then the potential contract value. The good thing about it and the interesting thing about it is once you have started scoring accounts, then you can start acting differently. So, and you can set up your tiers or any number of tiers. We typically recommend 3 to 4 because it gives you enough buckets so that you can action enough people based on how engaged they are and how big is the account, or how good is the account fit. So the quadrants become: they are super engaged and they're our ideal clients. They're super engaged, but they're not our ideal clients. Maybe that's smaller deals or smaller businesses or maybe agencies. They're super engaged. They're a really good fit, but the signal is super weak. Someone visited the website once, and they're a low fit. We don't really care about that company. It's not our ICP. Maybe it's like, I don't know, a photographer for sales captain and the low account fit. Like, look, and they just visited the website once or signed up for a webinar. Are we gonna cry about it or hyper prioritize that over anything else? Probably not. So this kind of leads us to the decision matrix, which is like, how do we act for each of those types of actions? So once you have these 3 scores, you can then prioritize the accounts that are obviously high engagement and high ICP fit. And you can call them, reach out on email, reach out on LinkedIn, do a multi-channel campaign. These are the people you want as clients. For people who are high engagement but lower account fit, you can add them as part of your broader outbound funnel. Like, they can be there, you can nurture them, send them content, but you don't really kind of care that much because they're not your ICP. Still, you want to keep them engaged. High account fit but low engagement, you want to do some light touches. Like, you don't want to bombard them because they're not actively buying, but also at the same time you don't want them to unsubscribe. So you send them some educational content, you keep them on the loop, maybe you check in periodically every 90 days to see if their score has changed. And finally, low account fit score and low engagement, like, okay, they can join the webinar, they can do whatever. Typically it's like deprioritize or do nothing.
There's
A real,
sorry, Bill. There is a
go ahead.
question that it relates to the previous slide. So the question is, when you mention LinkedIn, is it email, conversational ads, connection requests? What do you mean by LinkedIn?
Yeah, so we try to keep it organic. We use it's actually two things. So when I'm talking about engaging through LinkedIn as a channel that we use to follow up with, this is typically organic. When I'm talking about the go-to-market that we run, that we use as a signal to then bucket people into those segments, it's typically either people organically engaging with our content or ads that we run, typically thought leadership ads that we then track with ZenABM and then interpret the data. So there's two sides. We are launching ads as a channel for high priority and high account fit accounts. I'm not 100% sure it's going to be LinkedIn. We're doing some retargeting and that we're planning for Q1 and Q2 2026. We're not looking at LinkedIn simply because it's a little bit more expensive than using Meta, for example, if you want to do re-engagement campaigns. But for first touches, LinkedIn is our way to go because we created a lot of content. We're active there, so that makes a lot of sense. But engagement, we want to keep it organic, so the engagement is coming out of my profile, Theo's, people from the team. Like we are actually the ones, humans, that are engaging.
Gotcha. Understood.
Yeah, so for Sales Captain, like literally, that's what I was gonna say. So we looked at what kind of makes sense. So how do we prioritize accounts? We, especially if we're looking at data coming from LinkedIn ads, we'll reach out to people to share with them the workflow that we've seen they interacted with the most. So we're running a lot of ads. Some of them includes sharing different GTM workflows. Some of the workflows are intent signals. Some of them are similar to this one, sharing the decision matrix. Some of them are how do you turn your organic LinkedIn engagement into conversions or your ads into even more conversions. So we will see which one of those posts and ads they interact with using ZenABM, and then we will follow up via email, sometimes LinkedIn as well, and we'll just share with them that workflow. And we'll be like, hey, so you interacted with this ad, maybe you commented, maybe you engaged. Do you want us to share the workflow? If it's a high engagement and high account fit, sometimes we might offer to implement it for them, because if they see the results, then they're like, okay, that makes sense. It's bringing us value. Let's do more of that. High engagement score and lower account fit. We will do like a low commitment email for like small wins and direct sales. Would you like to book a demo? But we won't really prioritize that. They typically go in the email only bucket because we have a lot more capacity on email versus the green bucket where LinkedIn is like one of the first channels because they've engaged with us on LinkedIn. They're probably following my profile or someone from the team. So LinkedIn is a lot more organic and immediate. Tier 2 light engagement, again, we'll reach out with them to share either workflows that most companies in their industries use. Like even if they haven't engaged much with our ads, but they're part of our ICP, we'll share something that's relevant to their industry and something that we've seen similar companies to them do and similar workflows we've implemented for them. Obviously, the execution channel, like where does this kind of go, is ZenABM, Clay, CRM in the backend, and then Lemlist. You'll see some of the examples. This is tier 1 outreach, for example. Hi, first name, many companies in your industry are missing da solution. We just help similar company generate 2 million in pipeline by asking, adding X feature to their CRM, which resulted in Y result. And we kind of embed all the information we have about them, about the ad they engage with, about their company, their industry, into the outreach. Similarly, this is tier 2, which is a bit lower kind of touch. We've helped companies like yourself fix that kind of feature element in their CRM. That was the result. Have you considered adding the same thing into your go-to-market motion, the same playbook or the same workflow? This is lower touch. We're not really asking for that much because we know they are engaged, but they're not our ICP, but they would still be a good fit for our newsletter or just to engage with us. And then the question is like, how do we scale that? So we've actually built the workflow on top of Clay, and I can share with you really briefly how that kind of works. Pretty much, this is the workflow before we dive into Clay. We identify the signals by running ads, tracking website visitors, and then collecting third-party data. So everything that goes on in our ecosystem, we're tracking that. Obviously, we use tools like ZenABM to track account activity for each marketing channel, prioritize the accounts based, as I said above, the behavior score and the contract value, and then personalize the messages based on the account state and the signals, like what it is that they've interacted with, what kind of information do we have. So this is kind of how it looks inside of Clay. We have, and this is a sample table, we've just pulled some of the data in. I didn't want to expose everyone interacting with us. So we have all the interactions per LinkedIn campaign specifically that are coming in here. And you can see some of the accounts here, some of the companies. These are kind of the ads they've interacted with. These are the different topics that they've interacted with. This is the copy, what it typically looks like, amount of impressions, because as I said, we want to score, did they view the ads once, which is a bit more random, versus 500 times or 700 times. Like maybe we need to prioritize something there because the algorithm is targeting those people more. What is the ad message? What's the intent? And we need that to be able to kind of personalize the message further when we're emailing them or reaching out via LinkedIn. Then we check for additional signals, because someone interacting with our content, if they're also, for example, hiring for sales, hiring for RevOps, hiring a CRO, it definitely means that we have a few more things maybe to share with them. So if the answer is yes, and we use Claygen for this, we'll then check what job title they're actually hiring for. That leads to kind of the tier assignment, and also this one because it's quite interesting. So we use the hiring signals, the number of impressions, if they're hiring or not, to then judge and kind of bucket them into signals. It was a really easy formula that we built within Clay, just specifically for this workflow. And then we check what feature we can actually position, I mean workflow, within their go-to-market motion. Like, hey, if you build that workflow, it'll mean X, Y, and Z in results. And then once we've done that, so we have our tier, we know what they've interacted with, we have kind of the email body, and then we find people. So that's a really kind of straightforward tier 1 prospects, tier 2 prospects, depending on where they've come from, and then we have the people. So once you have the actual individuals per company, and we know which kind of types of prospects or people we engage with from every single company, then we have email address, LinkedIn profile. We push that, again, same thing here. We push that within Lemlist, and then it kind of executes the campaign for us. If we need to, we also create accounts and tasks inside of HubSpot so that our sales team can also manually engage, maybe by calling them, maybe by interacting with their LinkedIn content. Like, depending on the tier, we also add some smaller activities within the CRM. That's pretty much what it looks like. Like, this is the complete workflow. This is the link to download the slides, and we were playing around a little bit with ChatGPT on this, and it's like, this is clearly the way to go, and hopefully more and more companies are going to be embracing this, not just using intent signals, and definitely using platforms like ZenABM if they're running any sort of advertising or marketing campaigns, but also orchestrating the signals so that not only they're not overwhelming their sales teams and their marketing teams, but they're also making the best use of everyone's time, and also not missing out any important accounts. And I can give you countless of examples of accounts who signed up for platforms that were big accounts and they didn't identify them, or big companies that engaged with someone's website and then went with a competitor. So it can really end up in horror stories, which is kind of the element that we don't typically kind of see, because it kind of, we kind of miss it in our go-to-market motion. And this is what we're attempting to fix here, like having full visibility with our marketing and then collecting the most and making it as efficient as we can based off of the tools that we now have available.
There is a question about the tools actually, before we move on. What are you guys using to collect track the website visits? Any specific platforms you recommend for this?
Yeah, we use our B2B because it's easy and simple. If you have the paid version, it also tracks the companies visiting. And then we also kind of, as a backup mode, we use Snitcher. which is a different platform. We use it through Lemlist. If you have a Lemlist account, I think they provide it for free in most of their plans. So if you're doing any sort, like this is the first thing that we did for clients as soon as they rolled it out. I was like, website visitor identification for everyone. And we kind of went live with it. So we have two systems that are tracking in parallel and letting us know because more data. If you have the Clay plan for it, you can also use Clay's enrichment, which is website visitor identification waterfall based. So it checks multiple different tools. It definitely charges you per credit. So if you have other tools and it does make sense, you don't need to be spending that on web visitor identification, but it's also an option as well that I would recommend.
Okay, understood. No more questions for now, but if you guys have any, just post them on chat. Bilal, do you have any questions? Maybe let's start.
I am just taken aback. I think that's also very similar to what we're doing inside. Instead of taking it like just calling it tiers, we just call it like different buckets, hot, warm, cold.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yeah,
essentially the same thing. And actually, I think I'll show you what we do, Bill, and feel free to sort of honestly like guide me as well if
go for
something
it,
that
man.
you see here that you're like, oh, this can be done better. But um, let me go over. So before I go to Clay or anything, sort of our problem initially was that we're serving a big market. So our TAM and SAM is a huge number.
Yeah.
And we're serving them all through ABM on LinkedIn, right? And the problem was we were getting engagements from LinkedIn, but without additional touch points, those conversions happen way down the line. And what we sort of
Mm.
identified was that sometimes we just need to nudge people a bit if they've engaged with ads, right? And we try to do this manually with the BDR team initially, where we sort of came up with the engagement score based on, of course, their engagement with the LinkedIn ads and other signals, and sort of gave them that context that, hey, these are the campaigns that they engaged with and everything else. But the problem was that like humans can't retain all of that information, right? So what ended up happening was that it was treated as a cold account. So no matter if they're engaging with
Mm.
different ads with different messaging, everything was treated the same way, which really
Yeah.
didn't help our case, right? So what we started doing was initially, we had different ABM campaigns. I'm not going to show how we named them. Might be confidential. I don't know. But we did stages. So basically, stages for us was the like sort of the intent score, which was that,
Yeah.
hey, if they're in this particular bucket, they're ready to be reached out. If they're not in that bucket, that means they're still not aware about us. So we chose interested. We named it interested. We're like, hey, if like they come into this bucket, and then of course we did like, hey, they have to have 3 clicks and they have to have X, or so we built out a whole sort of let's call it a filter based system that, hey, if they did this and this, or they did this and
Mm-hmm.
this, let's say they signed up for a trial, or they signed up for like 5 webinars in the last 30 days, they come into this interested stage. And this also had the LinkedIn ad engagement signals, right?
Nice.
What we started doing with it was we're like, we already have these accounts in the CRM as well, but we wanted to trickle them directly through webhooks to Clay. And the reason for that was we're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to push these accounts to Clay directly from ZenABM, and we're going to get the data that we really don't want to clutter our CRM with. And I'll show you what that means. So for
Nice.
example, what we did was, let's go with this one, interested stage run, right? So we're like, okay, so what we want to do is for any company that comes and hits in the interested stage for any active ABM campaign, we
Mm-hmm.
want to push that company. So we basically just went in, created, not this one. So just created a new table, right? Workbook and webhook. So
Nice.
where did webhook go? So this one, right? So we just literally created a webhook, cached that URL, and what we did was we're like, okay, now this is the part that was sort of interesting to us, which was we catered around that, hey, either we want very specific campaigns or we want all campaigns. So in this instance, because we were running specific campaigns at that time, we just went with that one. But essentially, you can do just like all campaigns as well. And this was the part that sort of was what mattered for us, which was that, hey, anytime something hits interested, that's when we want to trigger this webhook, pull in the companies. But of
Yeah.
course, you can do a lot more with this now as well. So you can like choose specific intent, specific stages, specific metrics, like whatever you want to choose. We sticked around with interested for this, and this is where like sort of the information that we needed that we didn't want to clutter HubSpot with. So what we did was we're like, we're gonna take all of this information. So all of the ABM campaign names that the companies been in are
Mm.
associated with, the stages, the number of clicks, the exact campaign names. And this is where we had an
Nice.
internal sort of resource that, hey, this campaign, like let's say if a campaign was around EdTech and the name is EdTech Aware, we literally put in a
Yeah.
one-liner explanation that this campaign means this, to feed into what this is. And we hit up this webhook. So like literally just click on save. And what ends up happening is, I'll show you from here. I'll just go back really quickly. So this is the interested state. So we pull in the data from the webhook, again from ZenABM, and we get all of the companies. We push this into a particular table, and what you showed, Bill, we do exactly that, which is
Mm.
um, based on the companies, we pull in external data. So external data, for example, you mentioned Clay, we use website tracking within Clay. And the reason for that is, for example, for us, it's important, like it's multiple data, but we only care about certain pages, right? So for us, it's like, hey, I don't care about any other page. I only care about pricing, demo,
Yep.
and then certain very high intent pages, and that's it. So with this, what ends up happening is we just use a lookup within Clay, and it fetches, it checks these companies and it gives us like exact data that, okay, so this company visited pricing, for example, on this date, but not only that, it also gives us where did they do that? Like where did they catch
Yep.
the IP from? And this is where then we prospect. We're like, oh, only for this company, trigger, find people in Istanbul and only Istanbul, and that's it. But sort of what we then do is, so we catch the companies, enrich them, of course, with our HubSpot data, with external sources, um, and then go from there. So what this looks in essence is, so I'm just going to show you an example. So this is a webhook that came yesterday. So we get the name of the company, the domain, the org ID from LinkedIn, the LinkedIn URL, and then this is the part that we're really interested in, which is what are the ABM campaigns that they're interested in? Of course, we have an internal resource. Um, Company ID helps us look up companies, and then intents if the company has any intent. I think this one would have some intent. No. Okay. But yeah, if there's intent, we get that as well. And in this table, of course, there's no other enrichment, but I can show you like I think this one maybe. So for example, this one, there's a lot of enrichment happening from HubSpot. We're just looking up the website visitors, if they did something. So we run sort of formulas and get like exact things that, oh, they viewed this one time based on blah blah blah. It was from on this date from this. And then everything else that we really, really care about, right? So
Yep.
are they hiring for our roles? Are they launching new products? Is the product team growing? Blah blah blah. But in this instance, we're just staying simple. We're like, oh, all of these companies, let's imagine they're a good fit, and we've enriched them, we've filtered them out, we've done everything. We then do the same thing, which is find people. So if let's imagine they're tier one, right? Well, so I think this is where you're like, oh, these are our cash cows. We need to go after them.
Yep.
So we sort of build out like, hey, we need to find people at these companies based on our sort of, let's imagine, ICP filter. So that can be, anything that's, imagine you're only targeting demand gen people, and that's only VP, director, C-suite level, right? From these companies, and people only based in certain locations, blah, blah, blah. So we build out this sort of search part. And we're like, hey, for any company that comes in, automatically find people and push them into this table. And what ends up happening is you find the people, you push them to this one table, for example, and then you can do anything else that you want, which Bill showed, which was how do you want the messaging to be? Do you want to like
How do you
segment
act
them based on
on the
personas,
signals? Yeah,
right? Or do you want to segment them based on different things? So this is where you can
yeah,
sort of cut, segment, push it to different tables or within here as well. Here we didn't do anything, but we do it in this template. We're like, we're gonna stick like just do start simple. This is where we started as well. And of course, we enrich the emails, we get the LinkedIn profile, and then instead of Lemlist, we internally use Smartlead and HeyReach. So we just push these people once they've sort of like once they're here and we have the email and it's valid, we push them to Smartlead if we have the LinkedIn and it's a
yeah.
high priority person because of course LinkedIn is a bit limited, we push them to HeyReach. So this is where we started off with, right? And we sort of created I'll show you later, we created a template for this as well. So people who are like just starting out, right? I feel like we spend a lot of time with the BDRs trying to make this work, where
Yeah.
even if we like sort of for at least the small accounts or the SMBs, we did this automation at that time, we'd probably have converted a lot more way faster. And then we sort of started going a bit deeper. And by deeper, I mean what we did was we created more webhooks, but this time for us, the webhook was that, hey, it's not just the stage now. I only care if a company has an intent of this. And so we created our intents within ZenABM. And we were like, hey, I don't really care what stage they are in. And we defined our intents within ZenABM. And how we get intents is basically if three or more people um, from the same company engage and click on the same ads that you have identified that, hey, if these three ads mean that they're a part of Pendo intent and people click on them at least three times and three different people,
Mm.
that's intent right now. And we're like, okay, if a company has these particular intents that we have defined, for example, for us, we're targeting our competitors. So we're like, you know what, we're going to go after them if people are engaging with that particular messaging. And we did the same thing. So we went in and oops, not this one, this one. So we went in, pulled in the same webhooks, but this time around, we fetched in all of the intents for this company. So for example, for LinkedIn, people engage from within LinkedIn with Pendo. And again, this can be multiple intents. So like, for example, in this instance, we have two different intents. In this one, we have two different intents. In this, again, it's three. So that way we're like, okay, so same people within this company are interested in three different types of messaging or use cases or jobs to be
Hmm.
done, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, I feel like, I don't know if you do this as well, but we sort of segment within the intent. So we're like, oh, if Pendo do this, if onboarding, do this. So again, we pull in the people relevant to all of our ICP, and based on the intent of that particular company, we then push them to different campaigns on Smart Lead. So, for example, for us, intent one was Pendo. So on Smart Lead or HeyReach, we defined one campaign, which is Pendo campaign, and we're like, here we did an if formula, which was if this part of intent is Pendo, push them into this campaign. If the intent is analytics, push them into this campaign. If the intent is user onboarding, for example, push them into the third campaign. So we start segmenting further, and then slowly, eventually, we started enriching them with more information, and now we dump it all into a particular structure into AI and sort of get the outputs without the if and buts. But if it's like a very basic competitor one, we know that, hey, this is what we want to reach them out with. Um, and again, like we created a template for this as well. So anybody who has Clay, for example, can like, again, I will share this as well, but you can go in, copy the template, scan the QR code, it leads to the template, and you'll be able to sort of do this yourself right from the start. So you won't need to worry about, hey, if the companies are engaging, you're like, oh, I don't know what to do now because my sales team is too busy focusing on the high value accounts, but I'm targeting SMBs as well. I'm targeting sort of other companies as well. What do I do with them? You definitely need to go multi-channel. And that's the thing that we learned the hard way. Like ABM as a motion, sh- LinkedIn is a great way to cover it, but can't be limited to it. You need to
Yeah,
go out and maybe do gifting as well if if that works for you, or you need to layer in these channels on
exactly.
top of your ABM to make it all work together. Um, so yeah, like Bill, what do you think of our setup? You're the
So
expert.
I think this starts from a really kind of big problem, which is advertising networks were built for direct to consumer brands because it was obviously the easiest thing to build online, and it was the
Hmm.
one for ecom. So and it's one sector that you can really easily show ROI. Like someone sees the ad, they visit the website, they buy. If it doesn't happen within the same hour, I'm not even saying same day, it'll happen within like a 30-day window. So you have clear attribution, you don't need to track anything, you don't care about the individuals. The moment and this kind of where it starts to unfold is we now have better data. We now can track a lot more things about the companies we care about. We can score them. So it's no longer someone engaged with your ad. It's like someone engaged with your LinkedIn ad, and it's a tier one account that you really care about and that matches
Yeah.
your ICP, not a random stranger. So because the individuals matter a lot, and because with AI we can identify the individual or the company who's engaging with us, there is a
Hmm.
big gap, and that's what's kind of seems so obvious from everything you've been sharing and everything we've been working on. It's like there's this big gap in the ad networks where there's no kind of room for B2B because you need the additional data. Whether it
Yeah.
lives in your CRM, whether you take care of it on ZenABM or some different platform. So as you mentioned, you don't pollute the CRM with data points that don't make any sense and might not even become
Hmm.
actionable data. There's a whole system missing for companies that really want to scale advertising, and we now have the data, the ability, and the channels that we can scale. And yeah, it's just amazing. Like I just get so amazed every single time by the opportunities. Everything that we can implement, I'm like, okay, that's amazing. We can implement it, but I'm more excited about what that means for the average company that can now
Yeah.
do all these things without a super crazy or super expensive setup.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, like this is available to small and big companies the same, and that's what always excites me about technology when it's blended within marketing. Like we had
Hmm.
cookies, and the reason I called it the B2B data renaissance in the slides is for the past 10 years we've lived through kind of the rise of the e-com, the direct to consumer, the crypto, the app space where everything was individuals, direct to consumer, B2C, etc. We're
Hmm.
now seeing the same thing happen in the B2B space, and this is like a super cool example of
Yeah.
what that looks like and what it can look like. So yeah, it's just like I get so excited.
I
Even though
think
I've
I
slept
agree
like
with
4 hours,
you.
I'm like, this
Yeah.
call is just pumping me for the rest of the day.
I agree. I think the biggest thing that we sort of missed at the start was exactly this. We treated it as a B2C channel, which was, hey, we're going to show them ads and they're going to convert by
Yeah,
clicking into the ad, going to the website, filling out the
exactly.
form. And we learned the hard way that that doesn't happen. Even ourselves, like if you think about it, I don't think I've ever clicked on an ad and booked a demo. I probably like saw an ad, went in, did my research, maybe like saw their website, then did something, and
Yeah,
that's where like this came in for us, which was like we want to be able to identify the companies and the people. Like we want to make an educated guess on the people, but we want to identify at least the companies
yeah,
that out of, let's say, 10,000 companies, if 50 are engaging right now, We want to make an educated guess into people right now. We don't want to wait,
Yeah,
which was like an interesting part for us as well. But yeah, I think this space is definitely going to evolve way further. I think the CRM lacks a big thing for us, for example, in HubSpot.
definitely.
The biggest thing is it has so much data on all of our companies, all of our contacts, but it's so hard to make sense of it. And that's
Yeah,
why I need to push it to Clay to make sense of it.
yeah,
And there's no easy way to see, oh, this company, like across its, let's say, 10 different associated contacts, the like they clicked on Google Ads, they clicked on LinkedIn ads, they visited website, they did this, and then they opened a
yeah,
deal. Like for a marketer, like the hardest thing right now is to make a educated bet on, hey, this
yeah,
channel is working for
for
us
sure.
because of this reason. Nobody can
Because
answer that.
if you look at the evolution of the CRM, it was based around humans inputting data. So I am a human. I talked to another human. I chatted with Bill yesterday. We talked about ZenABM. That's the price. I'll follow up tomorrow. That was the maximum amount of data that we had to store for companies. And now you have all these data machines that are producing things that you first have to interpret, then you have to update, and maybe on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. And the CRM is just stuck. I'm actually betting for when Clay is going to release a CRM or kind of like a CRM like extension to their product. I don't know if it's happening, but I'm definitely seeing the gap. Like I think everyone is starting to see the gap with how things are going, and I don't think any of the modern solutions right now
Mm,
are kind of supporting this at all. Like it's just fancier or more workflowy implementations of that, but it's around the same kind of principle.
yeah.
There's probably a big disruption coming. Same with ZenABM and what it allows companies to do with
And
orchestrating their ad
yeah,
campaigns and their spend and the data that
I
people
was
get.
gonna ask MJ. I was like, MJ, like for ZenABM, like,
Yeah, obviously, like we're gonna tap into this. Like we realized as well in our internal conversations, like there's so much data in the CRMs that is simply not surfaced to users in a
Yeah,
usable and reasonable way. But it's there and it's useful. So this is like something that we're working towards. I don't want to spoil too much, but what Bilal explained is roughly what we will be launching at the end of March. This is what we aim for. So essentially, like
nice.
pulling
hell
a
yeah.
lot of historical data and making it make sense to you guys. So yeah, we're working on that. I do have a question that came through the Q&A, which was how are you guys satisfied with Clay's People Finder and the data quality there? And if you have other contact finders that you could recommend, ideally if you could plug them into Clay via the API.
Bill, you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, sure. So it really depends what you're looking for. At some point, I think about a year ago, we were like, oh my God, Clay doesn't, because Clay has to stay compliant with LinkedIn. It's like that's kind of like one of the big things that they won't have 100% of the data and not necessarily 100% fresh data. So, but still, what we found over the last year after we freaked out was for maybe 80% of the campaigns, it has more than enough data on prospects because it does, more or less use data from LinkedIn. If you want the most accurate and fresh data, you have to scrape LinkedIn yourself. Vein is a really good example of a tool that we use. I think there's one or two more that also integrate via API to Clay directly as well. But we mostly do that when we've exhausted the TAM and we really want to tap into the last maybe 5 or 10% of the people from a certain niche. For most other cases, because Clay's people find is like really straightforward and works all the time and has error checking built in and a lot of other features, we don't really bother. Like we'll go with it. If we really want to exhaust the TAM, then we'll just scrape off of LinkedIn directly. But in those cases, we don't really need the API because we're just doing it once. We get an output of the data, we import it into Clay, do whatever processing we want to do, and then kind of run that campaign. It doesn't need to happen on a continuous basis. For anything that's like part of a recurring workflow, an automated workflow, we'll just go off the box with whatever Clay or any of the tools that we use include because we don't want to be troubleshooting or potentially having 10 different workflows break because someone didn't update an API or there was a bug and all of a sudden our go-to-market motion isn't working. So it is a little bit of a trade-off depending on your use case, of course. But yeah, we would typically go with Clay for that.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's all about fighting your battles. I say the same thing, which
Yeah,
is Clay is not the best for people data. It's definitely not the best. It might give you data, but people who've left the company, or it might not like give you 100% coverage, but it's gonna be good enough for you. Like
Yeah.
I so far I haven't seen any company that I'm like, oh, it's like really, really bad that it can't really work. It's gonna work out for you. Of course, you're gonna miss out people, but if you do like valid checks and whatnot, you're not gonna reach out to wrong folks. You're not gonna sort of send emails to people who've left the company as well.
Yeah.
It's just good enough, honestly, right now at this point. And again, there are better tools out there. Does it make sense? Not for us right now.
Yeah.
Mm. I do have a
It really
follow-up
depends on your
question
use
on that.
case. Like, I think it would be wrong to just say, "Oh, it's all good," or
Yeah.
"Oh, it's amazing." Like, it depends on your use case. For most of the people, it should work. But if you're looking for something, that gives you full coverage, yeah, you probably have to get the data live through
Go to
LinkedIn,
Sales
and then there's
Navigator,
different ways.
scrape it or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What if like a follow-up question that came earlier was what if you're essentially the people you want to target that not are not that super active on LinkedIn, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
some specific niches, I don't know, let's say medical niche. I know you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
work with many not software companies. So
100%.
where are you putting your hands to pull the contacts out then?
The website. So what we do in those cases is Google Maps is the first one. So for me, what I typically say is like, what is your number one data source? So the number one data source, depending on your niche, would be either um, LinkedIn Sales Nav because it's companies that are active online. Obviously, also above a certain size, even if it's a local company, they'll be active on LinkedIn. So if it's not on LinkedIn, it's typically Google Maps and then website. So what we do in those cases, after we've scraped the Google Maps data, we will then scrape the website, and we have a special Clayton prompt that allows us to identify the founder or owner or anyone who kind of runs or is listed in the business. And then we'll try to guess their email address. So we want to maximize, and we will obviously scrape the website to see if we find any other email addresses other than the regular ones. So with local businesses, it's email heavy, and you're just trying to maximize your chances of success. You don't have the same data, but you can do a lot more volume, and it's a lot more forgiving. Local businesses don't get that bombarded. Try putting CEO of a SaaS company on your LinkedIn profile, and you'll get super bombarded. Like next day, CEO, CMO, head of marketing, head of sales, like
Mm.
it just scales. So yeah, local businesses, they don't get that much attention, which kind of gives you different stats when you're running the campaign, different data to play with, but it's equally exciting, I would say.
Okay, and you're using Claygen to scrape both Google Maps and the websites?
No, the website, yes. For Google Maps scraping, we typically use either Zenrose or Serper. Mostly Serper. Sometimes we use Zenrose if we want something more specific. We'll use API actors as well. Like we'll, depending on the case, we'll build a custom scraper if need be. And something cool I'm sharing because we're doing a webinar with Lemlist very soon is like we paid someone on Upwork $50 to build a scraper to kind of scrape the platform of one of the largest marketing conferences. I'm not gonna mention which one because I don't want to get banned. But we scraped everyone, and that cost us literally $50. We enriched them inside of Clay, split decision makers, people who lived in SF or wherever the conference was taking place, stage of the company, removed all the agencies, kept our core audience, and then we paid the thing another $50 or $60 to build kind of like a bot that went into the platform for the people that we wanted and messaged them. And that kind of skyrocketed our performance. We did email on top because we found those people's email addresses in LinkedIn, but just natively spending $100 was like the best go-to-market motion or workflow we've ever built.
Best
And
ROI.
like it
Yeah, I
takes
think that's
stupid small things like that to
yeah.
show you don't necessarily need the most expensive equipment or the most fancy tools. You don't need to vibe code or do stupid things like that. Like as long as you know what you're building, you can get someone who's an expert at it to build it for you, and then you can run it, and it can give you data is the new creative. That's it, in its purest form, I'd say.
Yeah, I think for us as well, like there's so many niche directories that you don't know they exist, but they give you everything.
Yeah.
For example, we're targeting this one city, and turns out that city has a public directory with all of the businesses registered in that city, with the emails, with everything, all of the contact names. And we were like, this is what we were looking for. And we
Yeah.
just went in and scraped all of that data, cleaned it up, used it. And that's like much better than wherever else we were getting the data from.
I have a nice example like that as well. We were looking to target, I think, manufacturing companies in Malaysia or something like that. It was like old school big companies in Malaysia. There was no kind of business index, and you wouldn't necessarily find them on LinkedIn. But what existed was a directory that they would pay to join, and all of them were there for some reason. The
Yeah.
only way to get access to the data is pay them, I think, $2,000, and you have to go to the director's office physically to get a USB stick with the data. But the data was available on the website in a really old format, and I think they assumed, you had to click twice to access the email address, but it was all there. And I think they didn't know how scrapers have progressed because there was no bot checking, no anything. Like all the data was there, and they were like, if you want all of it,
2000.
come get the
Yeah.
print. Or it was a print and the USB stick. So we literally scraped the fucker in like a day.
That's awesome.
two
Awesome.
thousand dollars worth of data for
Uh,
I don't know $10.
sell it. Sell it now for 2000 again.
Yeah, exactly. Which made our outreach, as you pointed out, like super effective. One of my favorite hacks when we start building the campaigns for a client is we'll prompt ChatGPT to just find communities. Like we'll say we want to target this, and that type of person. What are some communities that you can point to where super detailed characteristics or criteria about those companies exist? Because to your point, there might be an individual contributor or a third party or a distributor that has a listing on their website with all the companies you're looking for.
Hmm.
Let's say you're looking
That's
for
very
HubSpot
smart.
agencies. There's like, you can go to HubSpot. Let's say you're looking for technicians who implement a specific type of equipment because you want to sell them something. Like there's typically the equipment manufacturer has a website where they say authorized retailers, distributors, suppliers, etc., etc. You can. That's it. That's the beauty of it. It's no
Very
longer
smart.
I'll create the fanciest message or I'll be super eloquent. It's like, can I find better data than my competition? And where does better data live? Typically not inside of sales now. That's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very smart. The communities play is very smart, I
Yeah.
think. We should try
And
that.
it doesn't even have to be a community. It can be
Mm,
like anything. It can be
anything.
people on a podcast, as long as
Yeah.
it's a directory of people. That's it.
Mm. Yeah. I remember like there was a time before Clay when podcast plays were like for engaging accounts or like these people in those accounts, like you're like, oh, I want to be able to get the podcasts like, automatically and sort of go with that. And we found this one tool called Listen Notes. I think it still exists and it had an API. And what they did was based on the person's name, it gave you all of the podcasts that they appeared in with the transcripts. So, and this is like back in what, 2022, maybe 2023. And we used to like use that to personalize the copy, reaching out to these folks who appeared in podcasts talking about certain things.
Yeah.
Different
That's
plays.
it. There's people that host podcasts for the sole purpose of
Mm,
getting those conversions, but it's much smarter if you can go after audiences that other people have built. That's it. And you can, if you provide that, if you combine that with providing value, then that's a secret combo. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, and it's out there. It's just that it's easier for people to say, "Oh, I'll get access to super cheap data from Instantly, and I'll use that one platform to run a super mass outbound campaign, and I'll pay a ton on Instantly for mediocre results." Then just spend a little bit more time and mental capacity to identify campaigns that are going to 10x. Because realistically speaking, the average campaign in 2026 is not going to break a world record if it's just done using tradition. Even Clay, like you can use it in really extraordinary ways, unless you're actually building your own kind of data points. That's what I call it, like different insights per company, data points that don't exist, maybe
yeah,
how many people they have on their engineering team. Unless you're creating something different, someone with access to Zoom Info has the exact same data as you. Yeah, they're paying a little
exactly.
bit more, but they don't care, and they can be more efficient or more effective than you because they have a bigger team. So the tools are there. It's just that how are people using them, and are they using them in a smart enough way by focusing on what actually matters, not AI copy personalization, But
Mm.
identifying, interpreting the signal, and acting the right time, and finding the right data sources. That's what I keep telling people. Like AI personalization, cool. If you can offer something meaningful, like go for it. I'm not gonna say no, but it's not a big hack people assume it to be. Because for some reason we
Mm.
get super hard on saying like, oh, the entire message was AI copywritten. Like, okay, it gets you through the spam filters, but it's super hard to scale because every message is different, idiot. So now
Yeah.
go find what actually worked.
Mm.
Eventually, at some point, when AI is there, we'll have a black box. You'll give it access to all the data sources. It'll give you one-on-one messages for every prospect. You want to know why it works. It'll work. It will be perfect. We're not there yet. The AI BDRs are not there yet. No one can build that. So when that moment comes, I'll hand over my hat, my go-to-market hat, and I don't know, I'll go become a singer or a piano player or something like that. Until that time comes, we have a job to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think we're trying to do at User Pilot, where we're getting all of these data points, building our own data points on top of that, getting the
Yeah,
insights, feed that in a very structured way to AI, and giving it a very clear hierarchy that, hey, based on these data points, if you identify this, this is how the messaging should look like. If you identify this is how the messaging should look like, and have it sort of give us the outputs, the copy. I would say it's working okay right now, but definitely a lot to still learn.
yeah, and oftentimes you might just find that if you have a really sharp offer, it'll work a lot better if the data is good
Yeah,
versus trying to hyper optimize with AI. Like you
yeah.
can scale it with AI, but as long as and it's different if you have product market fit and if you have a proven offer. But if we really question ourselves, how many of the companies that try to do this have these elements in place? It's not that many, and it's similar to the amount of companies at scale. It's not that many. I'm not saying that those companies can't implement it and be successful with it. They can and they should and they have to. But for companies that are starting out, for someone who wants to build version 1.0, it's also about how to kind of distribute your energy and your best distributing your energy where it can really have a big impact.
Mm,
That's what
very
I'm
small.
always going for.
We have one more question, which is
Yeah.
which models are you guys using to parse and make sense of all of this data, like with a SideClay? Is it like GPT models, Claude? Which ones? Which ones you
Yeah, so
prefer?
we'll go with the cheapest model available that does the job. For copywriting, we'll definitely go with Claude for the time being. For data analysis, typically within Clay, at least GPT models work a little bit better and are a bit more efficient. But it genuinely depends if we can get the same kind of task completed with a cheaper model, we'll go for the cheaper model as
Yeah.
long as the accuracy is there. That's it. Like, and over time you get kind of muscle memory. Hey, I want to count how many employees the company has, or I want to build this very simple prompt. I'll use a cheaper model. If it's
Mm,
something more complicated, I'll use a more complicated model. So that's kind of how it typically goes. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's like someone asked me this as well, and I was like, I go with the cheapest model and see
Yeah.
the outputs. If it's working,
Exactly.
good enough. If it's
Yeah.
not, I do the next one. If it's
hundred
working,
percent.
good enough. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It's the same thing with Clay Waterfalls. Like you can pay, I don't know, 20 credits to find an email address on the most expensive data provider. Why do that? Start with the cheapest ones, check out if they
yeah.
work for you or not. If they don't, progressively scale your costs, but you don't want to start the
At
other
the
way
most
around.
expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think we have any more questions. So I guess, yeah, it's been an hour. So I guess we're going to be slowly wrapping it up. So do you guys have any last words you want to give?
I think we've covered everything from my side, really.
I think so.
Unless
Yeah.
you want to do a recap for us.
Oh, I don't think I'm capable of recapping all of your knowledge, but I'll just say there will be recording uploaded today, so
Okay, good.
people will be able to catch up on this much smarter. But yeah, it's yeah, we have great session and thumbs up flying up. Great, thank you. All right, guys, I'm not keeping you here any longer. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, who watched the recording. And will the decks be available? That's the last question.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I've shared a QR code somewhere, but I can send out a link on the chat
yeah,
if
we'll
you
figure
wanna.
it out to put it in
Okay,
the
we'll figure it
Notion.
out
So
amongst ourselves. That
yeah.
works.
Also, we'll put the
All
link
right.
to Bill's LinkedIn profile and Bilal's as well in the resource center. So if you guys need to ask them any questions privately because you're shy, you will be able to do that on LinkedIn. Yeah, and with that, we're wrapping it up. Thank you guys, and yeah, see you on the next sessions.
Awesome.
All
MJ,
right.
Bilal, you
Yeah.
guys were amazing. Thank you
Yeah,
very
you
much for
did
the invite.
well. Thank you.